All right, guys, welcome into my official NFL Week number 12 upset special, where I warn people about potential upsets happening in the NFL this upcoming week. And guys, we begin Thursday, early afternoon, Thanksgiving Day. It's going to be Buffalo traveling to Detroit, and I do think that Buffalo will win this game. I love the over, but the Lions, the way they played on the road against the Giants, you know, that offense looks good. It looks to be back on track. They were so good earlier in the season. They struggled. Now they've been better. I think Josh Allen and the Bills actually do have a distinct advantage playing in Detroit back-to-back weeks. There's no travel. That offense operates better in a dome with Stephon Diggs. It's very explosive, but this is a game where the NFL is going to want to see a lot of points. We're going to see a lot of points. For me, Buffalo being -9, I think they've actually fallen or moved to -10. So there is money being placed on Buffalo. It's understandable. You know, after their win against Cleveland, they're kind of back on track after that Minnesota loss, and they are still the favorites to win the Super Bowl, or at least a top 2 favorite at this point in the season. I just feel like it's a Thanksgiving Day game. Detroit with their offense is going to do enough. Maybe even there's a game where it's 33-19 or something late. Detroit gets a late touchdown to cover in garbage time, because they do have, even with Jared Goff and stuff, he's been pretty good this season, especially at home, at Ford Field in the Dome, higher scoring games, no weather impact. I like this game being a little bit closer. Next, we have New England traveling to Minnesota. A lot of people are going to be tempted to take New England to upset Minnesota after what we saw last week from Minnesota at home. An utter annihilation, a humiliation. But guys, this is the NFL. Don't overreact to 1 week. New England, I have major concerns for their passing offense with Mac Jones, really just their entire offense in general. Minnesota has been solid this season. Yes, I did call them frauds because they kept winning 1-score games, and that's why I picked Dallas to beat them and easily cover the 1-point spread, which they did. But now I'm actually back on Minnesota covering this 3-point spread because they've got a significant advantage on the offensive side of the ball. They're at home. This is you're getting Minnesota at a discount right now. After them getting crushed, people, they're not sure. They don't trust Kirk Cousins. It's embarrassing, but guys, Minnesota still only 2 losses. They are a good team. New England, for as good as their defense is, on the road, they have shown some cracks on the defensive side of the ball. I'm expecting a big game from Justin Jefferson on Thanksgiving night at home. And it's going to be a nice win for Minnesota as they continue to march towards a division championship there. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Jacksonville. And this is kind of my one random upset of the week. Normally, we get it. Just certain things I saw with Baltimore last week I didn't like. Overall, their offense, especially their passing game, seems to be lacking this year. Jacksonville is a solid team at home with a decent enough defense and an offense that, no one really talks about Trevor Lawrence. It is intriguing. What's going on with Trevor Lawrence? Is he improving enough to really be considered a future franchise quarterback? He's going to need some good weeks, and I think he's going to have them towards the end of the season. He's going to settle in and really prove himself as the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, there's no real huge reason I'm picking this upset other than Jacksonville is at home. They've got a good enough defense, and what I saw last week from Baltimore on offense did concern me. It kind of gets glossed over because Baltimore won 13-3, and they allowed 3 points, the great defense. But guys, that was a great matchup for Baltimore, playing at home against the Carolina team. Baker Mayfield making his first start in like 6 weeks. Carolina's trying to lose. Their front office is certainly trying to lose. They want to get a better draft pick. I think this is a game where you're looking at Jacksonville, the home 4-point underdogs. They actually win this game outright, and the AFC North gets ultra competitive. I think it would be a tie at that point if Cincinnati beats Tennessee, and I think Cincinnati will beat Tennessee. They're 1.5-point favorites right now on the road in Nashville. Next, we've got a 4:05 game. It's going to be Vegas headed north. up to Seattle, the Pacific Northwest there. And guys, Seattle -3.5. It just feels like Vegas is better than their record. The Davante Adams, Derek Carr connection is working. The running game is getting going a little bit. We do have to say with the Raiders, Darren Waller being out, Hunter Renfrow being out, those are big losses. And you're talking about a Seattle team, that's got a head coach in Pete Carroll who's probably going to win Coach of the Year, Geno Smith. Guys, I saw a report that the Seahawks want to give Geno Smith a massive extension. I would be shocked if that happened. I think maybe if you're Seattle, you try and do like a 2-year deal with Geno. Sure, he's been good, but it's been a real down year for quarterbacks in the NFL. I know everyone wants to reference Geno Smith and his QBR being top 5 or whatever, but if I was Seattle, I would not advise giving Geno Smith a major contract extension, maybe a 2-year deal or something like that. Seattle's kind of in a weird spot. It's like, they've got great coaching. They're kind of contending, but they're very similar to Tennessee. It's like they've got a solid record, but are we sure they have the right quarterback? Are we sure they have a good enough roster? I guess Seattle's a little bit better because they do have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But then again, Tennessee does have Derrick Henry. So it's very interesting, some of these teams in the NFL, especially this year where we've seen so much parity where anyone can beat anyone. And you've got these two teams matching up. I think the Raiders are more talented. I know based on what we've seen this year, Seattle certainly should win this game. But it is the NFL. Sometimes you just go with the team that's hot. The Raiders have the walk-off Davante Adams touchdown in Denver, and they use that momentum to win this game in the afternoon. Next, we've got a 4:25 game, New Orleans traveling to San Francisco. Of course, San Francisco is absolutely loaded. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. The list goes on and on with them. Jimmy G, great week last week. I think he comes down to earth this week. And this is a game where I definitely see a lot of bettors thinking San Francisco is going to annihilate New Orleans. New Orleans, they haven't been great, especially on the road. It's just one of those games where it's the NFL, weird stuff happens. New Orleans has been good enough to possibly hang with a team like San Francisco. If they get a turnover, they get a short field, you could be looking at the scoreboard. This is a close game in the fourth quarter with a lot of people very surprised. Again, guys, we've seen with the NFL, it's uber competitive this year. There's a lot of close games that you don't think would be close games. We've got a lot of big spreads that are being lost, where teams are like 11-point favorites and they end up almost losing the game outright. So San Francisco, certainly an extremely talented roster, but this is like one of those games where I really don't think San Francisco is just going to go and start crushing everyone. They're going to win this game, but it's going to be close at home there. And then we do have, this is the Sunday night game. It is Green Bay traveling to Philadelphia. And we've seen a trend with Philadelphia the last 2 weeks. They're 11-point favorites at home against the Commanders. They lose outright. They're 7-point favorites on the road in Indianapolis. They barely escaped there with a 1-point low-scoring victory. Now they're 7-point favorites at home against the Green Bay team who has shown signs of life. They beat a very good Dallas team a few weeks ago. Aaron Rodgers is forming cohesion with Christian Watson in particular, maybe playing a little bit better. And all those factors really combined for a very close Monday night game, in my opinion. I think when you look at the way both of these teams are playing, Green Bay, they definitely flopped against Tennessee. We expected them to win that game, but this is a situation, 7 points is too much against Aaron Rodgers, who is, people think he's washed. I think Aaron Rodgers has, something left in the tank, certainly. It's been very unfortunate the way the Green Bay Packers front office has approached their season, really giving him no weapons at all to replace Davante Adams. You trade Davante Adams for a first-round pick, and then you use that first-round pick on an overrated linebacker from Georgia. The Green Bay Packers front office is really, really bad and really overrated. Just straight up terrible. And that's why I said in the offseason that Aaron Rodgers needs to leave Green Bay. He should have went to Cleveland or Indianapolis or Pittsburgh. That's what I said. And this is really his own fault because he picked that coaching staff, and this is what you get. You get a rookie. You've got all these rookies. They're not spending any money on any receivers. They're just going to draft a couple of Georgia defenders who play about 50% of the defensive snaps in the first round. So I do have Philadelphia winning this game by 1 point, but Philadelphia, the shine is starting to wear off, and Jalen Hurts, I still think he's a good quarterback, but passing the ball, it is a concern. Seems to be really relying on his legs, in my opinion. And then this is the Monday night game that I think could be an underrated game this year. It's Pittsburgh traveling to Indianapolis, and I think the way Pittsburgh has played has really impressed me. I realize they didn't cover against Cincinnati, and their defense was really poor. Samaje Perine, the 3 receiving touchdowns, that was a shocker. But the Steelers are playing better. Kenny Pickett is getting better every week. They've built themselves a nice offensive infrastructure. The defense has enough names, I think, to slow down a pretty much washed Matt Ryan. Although I will say, I do think Indianapolis is in a unique spot where they've got everything. They just need the quarterback, in my opinion. I think Paris Campbell, they need to re-sign. He is an asset. Michael Pittman's a very solid receiver. Alec Pierce, the rookie, is really good. All they really need is probably a tight end and then a quarterback. The offensive line is good enough, and then the defense has really been built the right way. So this Indianapolis team really does have a bright future. Of course, if I was Indianapolis, I'd probably be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to trying to get one of these quarterbacks, because you're not going to get a top 5 pick. You're not going to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young unless you trade up, because, with Jeff Saturday, we thought they were going to tank, and then they beat Las Vegas. So I don't know what Indianapolis is doing. They're trying to win, it looks like, with Jeff Saturday, but Jeff Saturday's future as a head coach, it would be shocking if this wasn't just an interim thing. But then again, they've played well under him. They almost beat Philadelphia. They do beat Las Vegas in his first game, so we'll see what happens to him. But guys, those are my upset picks here for the NFL week number 12. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.